Chainsaw Man is written by Tatsuki Fujimoto. For a while now, it's felt like he's become this new shining beacon in manga, argued by many as being one of the most influential in the current era. Whether it's the hyper-popular series Fire Punch, or the more popular Chainsaw Man, or even one of the many one-shots that are outstanding, Fujimoto has solidified himself as a highly influential writer. But what do we really know about him? Nowadays, it feels like a lot of artists' branding is directly tied to their identity and personality. This is obvious in extreme examples like Twitch streaming or being a YouTuber, but it's also apparent in things like making music, or even things that used to be less front-facing, like being a director or author. But a really interesting juxtaposition to that is the shroud of anonymity that comes with most who write manga. So while we know the pen name Tatsuki Fujimoto, how much do we know about the author? Welcome to a running series called Micro Deep Dives. My name is Pei, and today we're talking about how anonymity influences the way we consume anime and manga. If you currently look at the most popular videos I've released on YouTube, one of them is about Chainsaw Man, specifically exploring a remarkable writing decision that was executed perfectly in the show. Of my last 4 videos, 3 of them have been talking about Look Back, the adaptation of Tatsuki Fujimoto's outstanding one-shot manga. I, as well as many others, are incredibly influenced by this writer. 3 incredibly successful mangakas responsible for Spy Family, Hell's Paradise, and Dandadan all worked under Fujimoto as assistants. And while that may be coincidence, I think Fujimoto's impact on manga has been substantial. And the things we know about him are around the year he was born and the general area of Japan he was born in. He's revealed in a couple interviews that he went to art school. Actually, a majority of interviews I've found with mangakas are filled with PR or sparse answers. The point is that there are a lot of writers in manga that aren't giving much information about themselves to the public. And I think that's the primary focus of today's video, how the anonymity of manga writers influences the way we perceive what they make. For example, I'm a YouTuber, and I've deliberately gone out of my way to not use my face as a part of my brand and marketing. I don't really want to hide it because that does the exact opposite of what I'm trying to do, and it creates this sense of intrigue and hype around a face reveal. But the goal was to get people more interested in what I'm arguing than who I am, to try to reduce that parasocial attachment that can create unreasonable expectations and unhealthy dynamics between a creator and an audience. I want you guys more interested in the product and videos I'm making than who I am as an individual. And so far it's felt pretty successful. People are so much more focused on what I'm making. I actually used to work as a professional musician, and there were 2 major reasons I changed my focus to video essays. The first is monetizing music is really tough. You have to chase absurd amounts of streams on streaming services. Like for example, from 2 million streams on Spotify, I made something like $11,000. Change in the edit, I just checked that, and actually I made around $7,000 from those 2 million streams. I've made around $12,000 total off streaming services, which is so far from a career, especially since getting views on YouTube and working within its algorithm feels much more approachable. But the second is that being a musician is incredibly competitive and difficult, and if you want to maximize your odds of success, I think that you have to in some ways sell your personality as part of your brand. While it's not a necessity, I do think it's way harder to find a successful music career online in the current day and age, based purely on focusing on just the music. The reason I bring this all up is because, first of all, it might provide some sort of explanation as to why I find this all so interesting, this idea of anonymity as a creator, and specifically a culture built around that. But I also think that this showcases that this is a specific topic I've thought a lot about, and I may have a unique or somewhat qualified perspective on it all. But the part that fascinates me the most isn't on the writer's side, but specifically the audience's. How does this influence the way we consume manga and anime? Like I said earlier, I've been talking a lot about this new movie Look Back, an excellent adaptation of one of Fujimoto's more popular one-shots. The 2 main characters who are exploring their relationship with art are named Fujino and Kiyomoto, Fujimoto's name being an obvious amalgamation of the 2. A lot of the discussion I've seen around this movie, especially on YouTube, was dedicated to exploring author intent, psychoanalyzing what different parts represent in Fujimoto's life. And this is where the anonymity becomes really interesting because we have so little insight into that life. As someone who's written for a Dungeons & Dragons podcast and released music, discussion around intent and symbolism is often both incredibly accurate and shockingly off base. Some people guessing exactly what the intention was, and others reading into things that are completely off base. But that's the cool thing about art, it's meant to be interpreted. And I think manga and anime has such a cool opportunity to engage in that. because outside of the art itself, the author's so removed. There's less of an opportunity to come in with established confirmation bias, projecting preconceptions about the artist over the art. I just think it's really interesting. And as I talk about this, it may seem like I'm advocating for anonymity, but in reality, I'm not sure one is better than the other. However, the differences between the two, public-facing or anonymous creators, now that's really fascinating.